Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we are taking a well-deserved mental coffee break. We're going to extract 5 highly practical mental shifts from our source text to help soothe the everyday friction we all experience in our relationships. I mean, imagine you're having your morning coffee, right? But your stomach is already in knots because of a lingering, awkward email exchange with a coworker, or maybe a text you deeply regret sending to a friend. The lingering stress of those interactions can literally derail your entire day. So if you've ever felt drained by a difficult colleague, overwhelmed by an intrusive acquaintance, or burdened by the guilt of your own broken promises, you are in the exact right place. We are going to dig deep into the psychological mechanics of why these interactions hurt, and more importantly, how to mentally reframe them to make your daily interactions significantly smoother and just much more rewarding.
All right, let's dive into this. Here's the menu of mental tools we're going to build today. We've got 1, the roots of happiness, 2, managing clashing personalities, 3, creating psychological boundaries, 4, the art of Zanshin, and we'll wrap up with 5, pain breeds true kindness.
Starting off with Section 1, the roots of happiness and escaping the illusion of isolation.
You know, when relationships get tough, I think our natural human instinct is often to just want to retreat and be alone. It is so tempting to think life would be an absolute breeze if we simply didn't have to deal with other people's emotional baggage. And modern life, with all its screens and remote convenience, makes it incredibly easy to fall for this illusion of isolation, the false belief that we can safely exist entirely on our own terms. But before we attempt to fix our strained relationships, we have to recognize the fundamental truth about human joy. As the source material bluntly puts it, happiness is born strictly through interactions with others. You literally cannot consider yourself an isolated existence. Being a lone wolf might spare you a bit of temporary daytime friction, but an isolated existence essentially starves your psychological baseline. It deprives you of the very friction that actually sparks warmth and joy and a sense of shared purpose. Even if people are messy and complicated and sometimes incredibly stressful, true lasting happiness is a team sport. We absolutely need each other to be happy.
Moving right along to Section 2, managing clashing personalities and the power of partial acceptance.
Okay, so knowing we ultimately need people doesn't mean we're magically going to get along with everyone we encounter. We all have that one colleague or acquaintance whose very presence just sets our teeth on edge. In these scenarios, we typically fall into the trap of total rejection, seeing the person as entirely flawed and psychologically shutting them out completely. But there is a much more effective tool here, partial acceptance. This is the practice of consciously recognizing they have at least 1 or 2 good qualities without necessarily endorsing their whole personality. Like maybe they're incredibly stubborn, sure, but they're also wonderfully punctual. When you sift your mind from total rejection to partial acceptance, it triggers a powerful, silent, physical response. Think about it. When you totally reject someone, your jaw clenches, your shoulders tighten, and you project an aura of total hostility. People subconsciously feel that and push back, but finding just 1 good quality relaxes your internal posture. You stop radiating those defense mechanisms, and this subtle internal shift often subconsciously encourages the other person to mirror your softened attitude. You don't have to invite them to your wedding, but simply acknowledging 1 positive trait can completely change the entire dynamic of the room.
Next up, Section 3, creating psychological boundaries and handling the impudent overstepper.
But what happens when the issue isn't just a mild personality clash, but someone who actively invades your space? We are talking about the impudent overstepper. Picture that acquaintance who corners you and asks overly personal questions about your finances, your dating life, or just offers unsolicited advice. The knee-jerk reaction is often to apply an all-or-nothing friendship rule and just block their number. But the source text offers a much more sustainable approach, maintaining a measured psychological distance. You don't have to completely declare them a mortal enemy. Instead, you prevent mutual over-interference by creating a conversational buffer zone. Basically, you protect your personal space without entirely cutting them off. In practice, this means being polite but brief. It means offering a warm smile, but strictly refusing to supply the emotional details they're fishing for. By consciously protecting your personal space like this, you retain all the control. You get to decide exactly how close they're allowed to get, which effectively preserves a professional or casual relationship in a format that you can actually tolerate over the long term.
All right, Section 4, the art of Zanshin and rebuilding trust after a broken promise.
So up until now, it's been pretty easy to look at relationship friction as something caused by other people, right? But we really need to shift the mirror toward ourselves. Sometimes we are the ones who cause the friction. We drop the ball, we fail to keep a promise, or we miss an important obligation. How do we come back from that without permanently damaging trust? Well, we can look to a profound concept from Kendo called Zanshin, which translates to lingering heart. In a kendo match, if a fighter strikes their opponent perfectly, but immediately drops their guard or turns their back to celebrate, the referee will actually wave off the point. It doesn't count. The point is only awarded if the fighter maintains zanshin, an unbroken focus and a lingering respectful awareness ready for whatever comes next. If we apply this to our friendships, an apology without a lingering intent to do better next time simply doesn't count. Even if you completely fail to keep a promise, you don't just mutter sorry and walk away in defeat. Showing a sincere intent to return the favor next time, demonstrating that lingering heart that truly wishes to make amends, actually preserves the foundation of deep trust. People respect the imperfect friend who earnestly desires to make things right far more than they demand an absolutely perfect friend.
Which brings us to a really big question. Where does true kindness come from? We all want to be treated with kindness, and we want to be fundamentally kind people. But where do genuine empathy and our deep capacity to truly forgive others actually originate, especially when they've wronged us?
That leads us into Section 5, Pain Breeds True Kindness, and the Empathy of Sorrow. That question brings us to the emotional climax of our explainer. We generally view our hardships, our heartbreaks, and our personal sufferings as purely negative experiences that should just be forgotten. But the source material suggests something profoundly different. It tells us that those who have actually experienced deep sorrow or setbacks acquire the unique kindness to forgive people. Think of a sharp tool, like an awl, used for piercing heavy leather. Someone who has never faced true adversity might casually poke their words into the sensitive lives of others, giving harsh, judgmental advice without ever realizing the agonizing sting of what they're doing. But someone who has hit rock bottom, they intimately understand the pain of others. They know the precise, breathless agony of an open emotional wound. And because they understand that pain, they develop a gentle, protective sensitivity. They refuse to use their words as a sharp tool against others. Going through deep sorrow doesn't just make you resilient, it physically alters your capacity for compassion, granting you the ultimate relationship skill, the gentle, knowing kindness to look past people's flaws and forgive them for simply being human.
So, we have to ask, will your past pain become the tool that heals your next strained relationship? The friction you've endured, those difficult clashing personalities you've had to carefully navigate, and the deep sorrows you've survived aren't just heavy weights you're forced to carry. They're the exact, finely tuned tools that give you the profound empathy, the strong psychological boundaries, and the lingering heart to build stronger, happier connections going forward. We cannot exist in isolation, but by shifting our mental approach, we can genuinely make the friction of human connection something that refines us rather than wears us down. Thank you so much for taking this mental coffee break with me today on this explainer. I really highly encourage you to take these concepts, from partial acceptance to zanshin, and apply them to an interaction in your own life this very afternoon. Until next time, keep learning.